Hey Patch, how are you?
Hey, good. Hey, we're finally
Oh,
doing it.
yeah. Thank you for your patience,
Oh, of
and
course. Thank you
yeah,
for.
it's been a shit show on the personal end with family and just stuff, and it's like,
I'm sorry.
oh, it's all worked out, and I'm happy we finally get to speak. That's the most important thing.
Thank
So
you.
thank you. So Patch, I love the name. Is that your name, or is that a nickname, or is that what is?
It's it's a nickname. My given name is Patrick.
That's what I figured. Okay, yeah,
But when I was called Patchy, uh, since I was born. I was enrolled in school as Patch, and then I tried when I came to New York and started drama school. I'm a serious actor now. I'm going to be Patrick Darragh, and of my tiny little art school, there happened to be a classmate of mine was from my same hometown.
oh,
Was
okay.
older than me. She was in my older brother's class, and so she kind of said, "Oh, you're Patch," and anyway, it stuck.
Yeah,
And
very cool, very cool. And I feel like we share two similar Instagram friends, and I feel like they both had a similar career trajectory to you. They've both been on the podcast before. One is Matthew Mayer, who's a very good actor,
oh yeah,
like underrated. Like he was in like the movie Air and just like subtly kicks ass. Like it's
he's one of those actors who really can do anything, any genre, any he can flow very. He's very funny, but he's also he's got incredible depth too. Yeah,
and the other one was Dylan Keenan, or am I saying that right?
Ken,
Kenan? Yeah, Kenan.
another,
He's an excellent actor as well.
another great actor. Man, that guy. Uh, we became friends when I was living in Los Angeles. So I always think of him as L.A. Dylan because I had a New York Dylan who moved to L.A. also.
Yeah,
But yeah, Dylan, he's great. He's doing Mayor of Kingstown now, and he's that guy. His best friend understudied me in a play in Los Angeles, and those guys, we just hit it off. Could have been nicer. I should give him a call. I haven't talked to him in a while.
yeah, very cool. I just wanted to name drop and sound like I was I was cool for a second.
You are.
Yeah, so I read an interview you did, and you said as a kid, I'm like, there's no way he did this. That you sat in the front row of the movie theater as a kid because you wanted to be that much. It was from like 2018. Patch, tell me that's not true because there's no way you're the front row guy. Were you the front
Well,
row kid?
not anymore. But when I was like first getting into acting, like in high school, what else was there to do? We'd go to the movies all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, I did always want to sit in the front row. I don't
Wow.
really, I don't, I that was a theory that I came up with that, oh, I guess I just wanted to be in it. But um, I don't do that anymore. I like to sort of be back and see it.
The theory makes sense though, right? You're a passionate kid who loves movies, and
Yeah.
you're legitimately wanting to get as close to the movies as you can, and you took
Yeah.
it you took
Yeah.
it very literally. So, and then I'm talking to a guy who went to Juilliard. So do you feel do you feel if you didn't have Juilliard, you would have been just as well said as you are now? Do you feel like that would have? Do you think that helped prevent it? Do you think? I mean, I'm not preventing. That's a stupid question, but do you think it? You think you would have been where you were without Juilliard?
I definitely would not be where I am. I would be somewhere else. I think I probably would have been more into the comedy route. I mean, well, let's say like not just Juilliard, but like any of the drama schools that I applied to. I definitely it changed me as what I wanted to do as an actor, as an artist. It was much more serious. I think I was accused of trying to be too funny a lot in my first year at school. Um, but it's a funny question because I think some people in my family feel like, oh, you shouldn't have gone to drama school. You should have just tried to be a comedian. But I definitely, I learned a tremendous amount. There are some incredible teachers there. Sadly, most of the teachers I have had while I was there have passed away or retired. Not
Right,
all,
right.
um, but no, I learned a tremendous amount, and I always go back to it. The basics. Some of the best actors I've worked with over the years, and I won't do a name drop, but they go back to that basic stuff. It's all the same stuff. So I definitely got a lot out of it.
Yeah, is this is a stupid question, but is Juilliard competitive in the sense that you are going head to head with other actors because you all have pretty much the same aspirations, right? You all want to advance your acting career, your career as performers. Do you feel like it's competitive in that regard? Do people undercut each other? Is it competitive? I don't want to create like a whiplash situation, but do you feel like it was competitive like that, or is it people working as a team? What is that like, Patch?
Well, I would say that it's a healthy competitive, at least our class, and I think every class is different at Juilliard.
Right.
Really, every class had its own personality, and classes have sometimes people have a lot of success, and some classes have less success. I think our class had a healthy competition. I think it's very competitive to get there. I think it's very humbling when you first get there. You're like, oh, I'm the best from my school.
Right.
Here's the best at their school.
Right.
So I think we generally as a class were very supportive. I don't think there's the same infrastructure. I see other schools, and I think other schools maybe are more banded together after school in helping each other. But that's something that I've tried to carry on and facilitate with some of the people I went to school with. I've been writing with a guy I went to Juilliard with as an actor, and we actually just got our first film made this past year.
Great.
So I'm still in touch with a lot of the people, and not just from my class but from other classes. But I would say it was definitely, there was competition, but I don't know if they still do this, but when I was there was no auditioning. We never auditioned against each other. It was just they would, I guess, make their determinations based on the work you were bringing into acting class.
Because that's how it was for a while, right? You have to audition to get in, like sometimes multiple times, right?
Yeah, you still do, but now it's much more thorough. When I was there, they still cut people from the program.
Right.
After second year, I think we started with 22, and I think we ended up adding one at our top of our second year. They had someone who had been cut, who they let back in, who went on to kill somebody and go to jail.
Ooh. Wait, so they cut people at Juilliard as well?
Not anymore, but when I was there, they cut about a third of us. We graduated
at
14. Now I think their idea is if you get in, you're in. So because of that premise, they are much more thorough. Now everybody, like I auditioned in Chicago because I was living in, grew up in Michigan.
Right.
And my mom and I took the train to Chicago, and it was just 3 people on the panel. And those same 3 people who were like the department heads and then the artistic director, Michael Kahn, they went to San Francisco and did a round in San Francisco, and they determined. But if you audition in New York, you'd see most of the faculty would see your callback.
Gotcha.
And now now they fly you out for like a couple days of auditioning, which quite honestly, I don't know if I like that. I think it's too much pressure. If I was put myself back in that position, I think I don't know. I think I would have been hard for me to fly to New York by myself for the very first time.
Scary.
And I also remember asking my first year acting teacher who was on that panel, who actually, before he passed away, lived right down the street from where I live now. I said, how do you know out of all these thousands of kids, how do you know? He said, I know the second you walk in the room. And I worked the auditions once in New York when I was going there. And I thought, I can see what he's talking about. I don't know, it's just some kind of thing. We can sort of just tell that it's right for somebody. Same thing in casting, I think, happens. It's just sort of an intangible.
Huh. You said you don't want to name drop, but would anybody watching or listening to this know some of the people in your class?
Yeah, I think so. Michael Chernus is one of my best friends. He officiated my wedding a couple years ago.
Oh, nice.
We've been friends since day one at Juilliard. And my friend Aaron Gann, who's the 3 of us have stayed very close as my writing partner.
Yeah.
Damon Gupton has done very well for himself. Elizabeth Reeser, Lynn Collins, Eunice Wong. Yeah, I would say probably Chernus is the one that everyone knows. He's kind of the unofficial mayor of New York.
No, that's awesome. I did want to dive into your filmography a little bit before we get into this wonderful movie, Cabrini. So I have to say, underrated show that you were a part of, like super underrated. The Night Of, super underrated. Like, you got to be kidding me! Like this show, like when people talk about the all-time greats, yes, the Breaking Bads of the world, they're all awesome.
Right.
I defy you to find me a better court scene or a last episode than the night of. Like, I think I've rewatched that episode, I don't know, a billion times. Like,
Wow.
it is such a wonderful, it just, John Turturro is just amazing in that show. He's
Really
amazing.
was. That was originally James Gandolfini played that role.
Yes, and okay, yeah.
I think after they made the pilot, and John came in, and Turturro, one of my heroes. So even though we only shot together for like a night, it was really cool, and he was very in it. He was, even the little scenes where we were just sitting, he was just sitting there. He would really rev himself up before takes. It was really interesting to watch. And of course,
Riz Ahmed was terrific too.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And Steven Zalian, geez, what a brilliant guy he is. Who wrote the whole thing, directed the whole thing.
Yeah.
The shoot was something like 158 days. I mean, really pretty intense for one person to see it all the way through. And I mean, he's written so many of the best movies of the last 20 years, but he was great as a director too. Really, really kind guy. He's very unassuming. He looked like he was just one of the crew guys. I remember I went up and I said, "Hey, where's the bathroom?" And then I realized later when he was directing, I was like, "Oh, that's Steven."
Another wonderful actor in that, who has Angel Studios roots in The Sound of Freedom, is Bill Camp. Bill Camp is one of those actors that like, I mean, I just had John Carroll Lynch on the show.
Oh, wow.
Bill Camp's in that same, like, I hate when people say, I know the face, but I don't know the name. Well, you should know the name of these freaking actors. There's some of these guys can out-act 90% of the people you're going to see on the Academy Awards any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Like, Bill Camp is terrific. Like, and
it's been nice to see him. I mean, I've known about him for years because he also came up in the theater, and his wife Elizabeth Marvel is an amazing actor as well. And they were, when I got out of school, I mean, they were in everything off Broadway and where all the best work is happening, I think, in the country probably. He's, man, what an amazing guy, one of my heroes. And John Carroll Lynch too.
Yeah,
real, just again, someone who can just kind of do it all.
Patch, that dude, like, I told him that, like, I've never seen somebody maximize the seconds he has on screen the way John Carroll Lynch does. Like, he has no wasted time. There's not a minute where he's doing this or that. Yeah. He is, everything he does matters and is on point.
That reminds me of something that I read John Turturro said when he was talking about Big Lebowski. He's so indelible in that movie, right?
Right.
Actually, they said his screen time was like, a minute, maybe tops. And he said, I think about these supporting roles that he's done so many of and been so brilliant. He's like, it's just a quilt, and you only get so many swatches, so you want to.
Oh, I like that.
Most, I think about that a lot.
I
like I've done a lot of supporting.
Another great movie you were in, and you were great in, was Sully. What a wonderful movie that is. And it's funny. Sully. I know a guy who's a teacher. Okay, who lives in the area. I know him, and he was on that plane skipping work. So he was on his way to North Carolina to play golf. So the plane crashes, and now everybody knows where he really is. And not only do people know where he is in a news story, as the years unfold, his character was definitely, because there's a bunch of rowdy dudes on the plane. Yeah. Going, like, playing golf. He's definitely one of those guys. Oh, what an insane way life kind of works its way out. Patch, it's crazy.
Absolutely. That I also shot in one day. And it was, Clint Eastwood, very singular experience. And I mean, you've probably heard other actors much bigger than me talk about working with him. He figured out all the things that are annoying as an actor and removed them from
that's the gist of it. Yeah.
It's incredible. And he also, I knew it was a big day. We shot my stuff. It's in the edit. It's all chopped up, but we shot it as one 13-page scene. So it was like the longest take. And basically just me. But I remember I'd gotten to meet Patrick Harton, who I was playing. Yeah. We found each other on Facebook, and he got me into the tower.
That's great.
Which, I always thought it was LaGuardia because that's where they were coming out of. He was trying to get back to LaGuardia. But actually, there's a very elite team that operate the entire area. Once you're out 5 miles from any Newark, JFK, LaGuardia, Westchester, any of them, even some Philly flights, you're with this team that is handling the most traffic of anywhere in the world. And it was amazing. And when I got to the set in Atlanta, it was like, holy cow, they really managed to recreate this.
Right.
And I was, just sort of marveling at it. And the set designer came up and said, how do you know that? I said, well, I went to the tower. He said, how'd you get in there? They wouldn't let me in. They wouldn't let any of us in. I said, well, Patrick got me in, and and Clint overhears us talking. I still haven't met him yet. I just sent in a tape, for this role. And he came over and he said, what are you talking about? I said, oh, I'm just saying, how great everything is. I said, the only thing that's different is JFK on this screen should be the first one. And he said, all right, everybody shut up. Why don't you tell my crew how you want to shoot this? And I thought he was like coming after me. And I was like, oh, no. He said, no, go ahead. Sounds like you know more about this than anybody. Why don't you tell us how to do it? And he wasn't being
a jerk. He was being a smartass. He was being
yeah. I was like, okay.
Wow.
And there was no action. No, he just said, Patch, you just whenever you're ready. Camera's always rolling. So it was wild. Yeah.
Wow. He is so universally loved by every person that's ever mentioned him.
Yeah. He just makes it really easy, and he's also got an incredible crew. They've been at the same team for like 26 years, I think. Not more now. It was 26 when I was working with him a while ago. So it's a big collaboration. Like everybody's directing it and doing it together, and it's really, really fun.
Another super underrated show you're in, right? I'm going to go right to Cabrini, but Boardwalk Empire was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I almost feel like people forgot how great. Like people talk about these great shows, Sopranos, as they should, because they're great. Mm-hmm. But Boardwalk Empire was a great show that should be talked about more. It was really
fun. Boardwalk Empire. Those God, man, Tim Van Patten and Terry Winter. Those guys really genius. Just and so much detail. I mean, they really they knew every little thing. And I mean, I think my suit was made by Robert Greenfield, the guy who does For All the Presidents.
Wow.
Like, they had the budget too, I guess, to do all that. But no, I loved that show. And I was supposed to just do I actually got cast and then they ended up cutting the role. I was in like season 2. And the casting director said, it's not the worst thing to have a cast director feel like they owe you one.
Yeah.
Said, okay. So I hung tight. And then I think it was season 4 I came on for a little bit.
You kind of have the same trajectory a little bit as far as your path as the late Michael K. Williams, who's one of the best actors, of our generation, certainly. You both were in Night Of. You both are in Boardwalk Empire. So that's kind of a cool thing.
That is a cool thing. No one's ever compared me to.
No, it's you guys have the same kind of you guys are in the same places, which is awesome. The last thing I'll say is you played a doctor in Cabrini. You also played a doctor in The Visit, which is a sneaky favorite of mine. It's such a fun movie.
It's super fun. I love that movie.
Could M. Night and Clint Eastwood be any different in their approach? Are they the same?
I actually thought they were. I never really thought to compare them, but actually, I'd say they're pretty similar.
Wow! Wow! I never would have guessed that.
Very obviously, he's a little bit more muscular with the camera, and with his kind of his stories are more yarns. You know what I mean? So they need a little bit more, I guess, decisiveness to how he's going to present it. Clint Eastwood's more like just put it on the sticks and just.
Yeah.
But in terms of working with the actors, he was wonderful and just very, very. There was that thing where because that was like the kids were always filming us. Do you remember that?
Right.
And he was like, "Don't look in the camera too much." He's like, it's like crack cocaine. Everybody wants to look in the camera.
That's great. That is awesome. It's such a great movie. Had your character showed up earlier, there would have been no movie, right? He would have recognized the old.
Yeah.
So, dude, Cabrini is just such a great movie. Such a wonderful. when I first heard Angel Studios a couple years ago, I'm like, okay, it's a I'm thinking in my head faith based, and I'm thinking oh, it's gonna be like the Hallmark Channel. Their movies could not be more cinematic. Like they are stunning. Like they are. Oh my god! Like it's picture the most grandiose movie you could think of. Angel Studios has nailed that down and then some.
I think I really hope that that the movie has a big life, and that it gets recognized, because I think the work that Alejandro and Gorka, the cinematographer, that they did. I mean, I was aware that it was very beautiful, and you could tell in the detail on that set would go so far back. I mean, deep background. We've got goats running around. I mean, really incredible. And also Eustace, who produced it, I mean, really funded it to allow for that. But I hope those guys really get their due, because when I saw it, I was really blown away by just how beautiful it all is. And Christiana, just an incredible performance. I mean, she's just an incredible person. She has that light within her that was required to play a true saint. And but she also had this way of kind of I don't know, for lack of a better word, just like making herself more plain.
Right. Right. No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
She just would kind of become her. I found it really thrilling to work with her, and we also had a lot of fun. It was a very fun group. There was a great crew, and so there was just a great camaraderie. Always helps, if you hang out with the people, it just raises everything. Everyone knows each other just a little more. It's more of that healthy competition too. Oh, that person's going to do that. Okay, the whole tide comes up.
Yeah, yeah. This is probably a poor quote, but there's a quote in the movie Seven with where he says, where Kevin Spacey says, when you want people's attention, you don't tap him on his shoulder, you have to hit him in the head with a sledgehammer. And I feel like Sound of Freedom did that for Angel Studios. Like people were like, oh, it's this cute like little oh no, it's not cute anymore. It's a very serious movie making company that produces some really, really special movies.
Yeah.
What do you think is in the secret sauce patch? Is it the people involved? Is it how they approach movie making? Is it both? What do you think it is?
Well, as far as I know, they picked up Cabrini. They didn't actually produce it, but they're distributing it.
Right.
And I think, from what I understand, that part of their model is that they have their consumers, who are their followers, or whatever you want to call it,
right,
subscribers, and they all vote. It's a very democratic way of doing it, that their members vote on what they want to produce and what they want to distribute.
Yeah.
So I think there's maybe some kind of secret sauce in just the numbers game. But I also think that there maybe is a piece of the business that they're latching on to say, we're gonna do this kind of realm over here that maybe has been more in a Hallmark traditionally, and have a certain veneer on it, and we're going to say, no, we're going to really show what it's like. And I think it's very exciting to see what else they'll do, because they're such a young company. But yes, as you say, they've come on with a vengeance.
And I do want to make it clear, like, yeah, this is a movie about somewhat, I guess, about religion, I suppose, but like, this is a great story. Like, if you like stories, this is a freaking great story. I mean, for lack of a better word, it's a fun. It's a story. I wouldn't say it's fun, but it's one of those movies that like gives you a little bit more faith in humanity when you're done. So that part of it's like fun. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So it's like,
I know, and it's, I mean, there's a lot to be cynical about these days, but to feel like truly uplifted by a movie. I'm excited to see it again. I got tickets for the opening week from today, and I'm going to go with a bunch of friends to the mall. But also because when I saw it, we were at this Catholic institution, I can't remember the name of it, in the city, in New York. And I had this row of nuns behind me who were so badly behaved.
How ironic is that?
I had to shush the nuns. I was like, I can't. I turned to my wife like, I can't believe I'm going to do this, but I was like, shh.
Wait a second. You had to shush nuns during Cabrini?
Yeah, yeah.
that the irony is so thick, Patch. I could cut it with a knife.
I know. It's wild.
So tell people about Dr. Murphy. I'm purposely staying away from just all stuff. I just want to drop some facts in a second, but like, just how would you talk about Dr. Murphy to those people who haven't seen your character? What would you say? What's he like? Just talk about a little bit about him.
I think Dr. Murphy. I just really think he's an incredible man. She wouldn't have been able to do what she did in New York without him.
Right.
And she wouldn't have been able to go on to do what she did in Colorado and other parts of the country and the world without getting that start and look what I did.
Right.
So I think he has a certain kind of quiet nobility to him. I think that he's someone, what kind of person who has come up to that level of society where, he started, the Irish didn't have much better than the Italians.
Right.
And here's this guy whose father came over and was just broke his back working on the rails. And he worked his way up. And so he's very ambitious, very bright enough to operate in that society and find his way.
Right.
But also, what kind of person on that, on a Friday night when he could be with, his chums at the pub or having a cigar somewhere, says, no, I'm going to get in my carriage and I'm going to go down to the worst part of New York where there's tons of disease. And I'm going to go down there and I'm going to volunteer very quietly.
Right.
I think it's someone who just, there's that immigrant thing that she certainly had of, it's your obligation to reach your hand back and help the person on the next rung up. And so what faith that they happened to meet, the night that she had this episode. And I think he's really is a better person than me, that's for sure. But he's just I think there's something really beautiful. And Alejandro said something the day before we started shooting. I arrived in Buffalo and I went to the set just to sort of say hi to everybody and do some fittings probably. And he said, Christiane and I have been talking and we kind of feel like we want to think about their relationship as, Christiane feels very strongly that yes, she's a nun, but she's also a woman and she's a human being and she has feelings and she's not just that she has her own struggles. And I thought that was so smart. And so we want to think of this as almost like a platonic love story between the two of them.
Right.
If in another life, if he was married and she wasn't a nun, that they might be together, but they have some kind of real affection for each other.
Yeah.
I thought that was really smart. And we always kind of came back to that there's real love that forms between them. And there's also some scenes that were cut. So we had more opportunity to explore that than is shown in the ultimate edit. But I really loved that. I thought that was really, it's something that you don't see a whole lot of in movies, that gray area of the different types of love and human connection.
No, that's beautifully said, man. You pretty much described it. And let me ask you, I mean, is there some truth you think to, he kind of understands her pain. He kind of understands the pain of the people who have the unfortunate circumstances they've gone through, is that he's lived the pain, right? You have to kind of live it in some ways to understand it from somebody else, right?
I think so. I think, he sees what's happening to the Italians down there. And it's like, well, that's how we were treated. That's how my father was treated. I mean, I even have that line, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I say, my father, he worked the rails and expendable.
Yeah.
Just like the Italians.
Great quote. Yep. Great quote.
That was in the audition. I remember doing it and having this big emotional thing. And then they said, well, actually change that scene. Now you're going to be pitching to these investors. And I thought, that changes the way you do that. You don't, when you're talking to what they did was kind of fun and smart. They actually had the actual Cabrini investors and the writer Rod Barr play the guys at the table who were trying to raise the money from.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, it's funny because this movie does touch upon two things that I don't know if it meant to, but like March is Women's History Month, how very appropriate,
Yeah,
and it definitely touches upon immigration, which is a very, 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 very hot topic now, and
yeah,
different. It touches upon it, well, maybe not in a different way. Maybe it is kind of in the same way of people agreeing and disagreeing and so forth. But I think the
yeah,
story is more about it's more in a positive context, right? So
yeah,
the two side issues that I felt like I realized after the movie was over, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I never kind of realized that while watching it.
yeah. I mean, I think it's also it's such a moment of birth for the country and for the city of New York.
Yeah,
And I think it's so yes, it's about immigration, and that's obviously a very important topic for the country that is dealing with right now, but in a very different way because I think we're at such a different place as a
right.
country and as a world. Um, and So I feel like that definitely comes up, but I think it's correct that it's not.
It's very different. Yeah, yeah, but
Not like, oh, go see this movie. It's about immigration.
yeah, yeah. There's building of walls. Yeah, there's no that. No, yeah,
No,
no. I
it
want to
was
be. It's just
pre-Trump.
yeah, it's just the topic itself.
Yeah,
The other thing I want to talk about. She's the only. Just some facts for people that want to like looking for a movie to see. This is the one. She's a patron saint of immigrants, which is so cool,
mhm.
and she's the first American citizen that is a saint or was a saint, which is
Yeah,
incredible, right?
yeah,
Those are incredible things.
yeah. It's remarkable. So many people comment on this, and you may have felt this as well. It's like, um, how do we not know more about this person?
Seriously,
You
like
know?
seriously, like
Yeah, and my I actually got the call for the job when I was in Colorado visiting my parents, and then we discover, oh, there's a whole Cabrini thing in Colorado. There's a giant, like 50-foot statue of her, and she built the whole infrastructure of their orphanage system there as
wow.
well. And then I think she did it in New Mexico. I mean, it's really it's just incredible. Um, and just that kind of, are there people still like that in the world who are just that committed to selfless acts? I hope.
Right. Patch, that is such a great point because, listen, you and I could talk about religion in a bar over a few beers, I'm sure, and talk extensively about, what we feel, how we feel about it. Here's the thing. It sent me down a rabbit hole after I saw this movie. I'm like, I want to look at some saints, like just look at saints.
Oh yeah,
The idea that somebody would give their life to a bigger cause, like it to me is like such a noble thing. Like, and some of these people are very, like the stuff they did was unbelievable. I mean, what also caught me is the way some of these saints were killed by angrily, like
yeah,
I took a couple down, stoned, grilled, um, hacked, pressed to death, flayed. Like this is like medieval. Like oh my goodness! And they did the noble things that they did, knowing that this could be the case, but going through it anyway because they were helping the greater good, which is a concept that I don't think I've ever fully processed yet.
I know. It almost seems like antiquated in this way.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
yeah, it's remarkable, and then also that she was a woman, and also that she was not meant to live to be, what, 67, I think she lived to.
right, yeah, yeah,
It's very, and so yes, she lived, but I mean, it was a struggle. I mean, just to even get out of bed in the morning, chronic illness and damage to her lungs, and still, someone who could have just said, "Oh, I'll go to the convent and be cared for." I don't know. That's what I would do.
pretty impressive. And the idea that at the beginning of the movie she has to talk the Pope into it, like, let me do
Yeah.
this, let me, like, I mean, I don't know. That's just pretty impressive. And I'll end with this: the two people that are very impressive that I love a lot, like David Morse in The Green Mile, captured my heart forever, and John Lithgow. The cast is amazing. You mentioned some earlier. Patch, overall, just some of these names, your thoughts, just on your final thoughts, anything you wanted to say.
Well, my thoughts on those two guys are, those are two of my heroes. I think Lithgow, another guy who can just, go from, he's hilarious, but he's also such a great dramatic actor. And I mean, really, truly two heroes of mine, those two guys. And I can proudly say that David and I have the same agent now. And they were wonderful as you would want them to be, in real life. And very fun and collaborative. They're also both amazing theater actors. I mean, David Morse in How I Learned to Drive, they revived it with the same cast, him and Mary Louise Parker.
Wow.
20 years later, I saw it a few years ago. I mean, just like one of the most amazing performances you could ever see. So yeah, that was a thrill. And you know what? We didn't initially have any crossover. Oh, I guess we did a little bit with David. Anyway, there's a scene that didn't make the cut that Alejandro had this idea that we'd all be at the Italian fest, and the opera singer would be singing. I can't remember his name. He was a hoot. And the camera kind of pushed through the whole crowd. We'd see everybody in the movie and end on her. So we did get, even though it was cut, we did get one day to work together and hang out. And I just, those are those really, when you think back to like the wanting to do this, and those are those moments where you really feel it's just really special, and you really feel like, hey, this was, I did something with my life. I got to meet these guys and be counted amongst them for a day.
Yeah, that's really well said. Last question. Early on, what movie or actor sparked your wonderful career? Because you are a super talented actor, Pat. Please, if I haven't left here today, please know that.
Thank you so much, Darragh. Jeez, I'm glad we did this.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I mean, some people overcome a tremendous amount to get into this kind of into the arts at all. I was very lucky to have parents who were very supportive. My mother is an amazing cheerleader and worked at the Detroit Institute of Arts, was very a lover of the arts. And so we, I remember I saw The Black Stallion when I was a kid. I remember seeing Amadeus, which I would have been 7 years old in the theater. That movie, that's one of my favorite movies still. That really got me thinking. I also was lucky to have some great teachers in high school who really encouraged me, and we did real work. We weren't just doing like Arsenic and Old Lace and stuff in our town. Not that our town isn't a wonderful play, but
right.
We were doing View from the Bridge when I was like a junior in high school, and and I also think Silence of the Lambs had a huge effect on me. That performance, that character. I've always loved Jodie Foster, but that sort of came out at a time when I was like, oh, I think I would really want to start thinking about this. And I was just very lucky along the way to meet people, friends who inspired me, teachers who gave me the nudge to want to do it for real. And anyway, so I'm still trying to get it along.
I'm not saying it's the same, but you mentioned, the Dr. Murphy and the relationship that Cabrini had, in another life. I'm not saying it's the same, but Hannibal Lecter and Jodie Foster's, character Clarice, that's a great relationship too. I mean,
spot on.
I think he likes her a great deal. Let's take out the serial killer, but the relationship, I think, is close, right?
It's absolutely right on. I hadn't thought of that. That is so true. It's one of the great examples. It really is a platonic love story.
Yes.
As scary as it is, that's kind of the heartbeat underneath it, is their connection. And these two people seeing the world through each other's eyes. I have to just plug one thing.
Absolutely. Floor is yours, my friend.
I just had the first table read last night of this new series that I'm starting called Long Bright River.
Okay.
Which is it's based on the book Long Bright River, which is by Liz Moore. It's an incredible book. Obama put it on his year-end list, and it was a New York Times bestseller. It's a phenomenal book. Amanda Seyfried is starring in it. She's playing a cop in Philadelphia looking for her sister, who's a drug addict. And if you don't know what's going on in Philadelphia, look that up, because
Okay.
what's happening on Kensington Avenue, where this show takes place, is really I can't believe this is happening in this country right now. I play the sergeant, her boss, and it really it explores police corruption, but it also really lionizes the force, and it's a really it's a thriller. I mean, it's a mystery thriller in the sort of vein of Mayor of Easttown.
Ooh, I love it. I love it already.
Yeah, but it's also got this incredible. John Doman is playing the grandfather. He's phenomenal. He's sitting next to me at the table reading up. It's like, wow.
She's a terrific actor. Amanda's a
Oh,
terrific
she's
actor.
incredible. And,
Yeah.
she's got something I hadn't really quite realized until meeting her and then doing this read through last night, is she has something really unique about her.
Yeah.
There's something I think that she brings that you talk about, these intangibles. And I thought, oh, she's got just a natural spin on things that I think, oh yeah, no one else would say it quite like that.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about it. It's going to be on Peacock. Sony is producing it. Anyway,
do they have a release date patch on that?
no, I would think that they probably want to put it out in the fall.
Okay.
We're shooting it now through July.
Yeah.
So,
oh, dude, I'm psyched, man. I'm psyched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes place in Philadelphia. It's a great story. Some great actors in it, and Nikki Toscano, who did The Offer and Hunters, is show running it and also adapting it with Liz, and they're doing just a phenomenal job. The scripts are incredible.
Oh, very cool, Patch. I hope you come back on down the road.
Anytime.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much.
So much fun talking to you, and enjoy the evening. And I hope really people go see Cabrini. Wonderful movie.